Content now. We're going to keep things going with a question. What will the future of commentary look like? We've got another dynamic panel, so please stick around. We're going to be joined by two-time college football national champion. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. He's taken time away from TikTok as a Manhattan Beach dad to join us today. Matt Leinart will be hitting the stage, as will Director of Global Expansion for Snap, Alex Dao, plus Suzi Watford, who's the Chief Growth Officer at SiriusXM. And this panel will be moderated by somebody who I actually met on live television. I know you've all been drinking rosé for the last few days, but Channing Frye and Chosen Family Wines make a delicious rosé. He's an NBA champion, once a Nick, always a Nick, Channing Frye, moderating our panel on the future of commentary. Don't go anywhere. Let's go.
Well, it's going to be easy. First off, I want to thank everyone for being here today. Secondly, I just want to go down the line, and if you guys don't mind introducing yourself and what you do right now, and then we'll get to the rest of the questions.
I'll kick things off then. Very nice to be here. I'm Suzi Watford, and I am Chief Growth Officer at SiriusXM.
Hey, I'm Alex Dao. I'm the Global Director, Head of Business Expansion and Sales Partnerships at Snapchat.
Matt Leinart. I am a former quarterback, and I work at Fox Sports covering college football. Fight on. I see you. Fight on.
Oh, Lord, no.
And I went to USC. He went to Arizona, so it's really, there's really no rivalry there anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I know we got a lot of W's. I think we want to start off about just how fan interaction has changed over the years. And each of us come from a different space about how that interaction is changing how we watch sports, how we interact with sports, how players interact with fans. And so from each of your spaces, I'd like to hear how it's changed and maybe something that you've seen over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, I think at SiriusXM, we've definitely been investing in sport overall. We've got more channels than ever, and if you really want to follow sport, then you need, I think, 6 different video streaming services to get everything that you can get on SiriusXM. So it's the place to come. But I think what I love about SiriusXM and what we've seen really develop is that kind of sense of community, and that people want to be able to have that two-way relationship with the kind of overall commentary. So yes, they want to hear what's going on, but they also want to know what's going on behind the scenes, and they want to share their views and opinions on it. And I think doing that both on the platform, but also finding ways to bring that out into live experiences, and also with kind of different communities and different groups is like absolutely the place to be. And more of that, the better, because those customers stick around.
Yeah, I think for Gen Z, the interaction with sports has completely changed. We did some surveys where half of Gen Z hasn't even attended a live sports event. Gen Z, there's so many different mediums that they can go to for entertainment, and so what they're looking for is a better way to enhance the experience with sports leagues, interact with players, interact with teams, and so that's where technology can really come in and disrupt. With Snapchat, we're seeing 70% of Snapchatters snap and use the app during live sporting events. And so we're seeing that shift in behavior happening over and over.
I think as a former player, back when I was playing football, the fan engagement was really limited to, because we didn't have all these platforms, so it was really limited to, fan fests or at the stadium, and you run into guys on the street. But it has totally evolved with the different social media platforms, with all the live streaming. I think it's just the access, and as you said, the behind-the-scenes stuff is where we're really seeing the shift in fans. And I think it's great because it's, as athletes, I think you're now starting to develop relationships with the fans, for better or for worse. But I think that interaction is great, and that's it's shifted. I mean, I just played 10 years ago, and it's completely different,
I think for me, just leaving the league 4 years ago, retiring. The biggest thing is that so many fans are able to just one click and get a hold of anybody. I think especially NBA players, we look at, Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, most of Kyle Kuzma, like those guys now, if they hear something, they're looking at those tweets and responding. I think 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was talking to actually our good friend Richard about Charlie Villanueva was the first one who tweeted at halftime, yeah, we got to play better. And that was like such a thing. And now you look at like there's VR where people don't even need to go to the game. They could watch front row from a VR. So I think as we look to the future, where do you think this is going to go? And where do you think that the player or the fan and the player is going to connect best in your realm?
I mean, I think the thing that is interesting about sports still is that still appointment to watch or listen, right? And that there is still that moment. But I think where it could go potentially, and, you know, would it be a panel that can, without talking about AI in some way? No. Is, you know, how can the interaction become even more personalized? And I think when we think about the technology that's out there to build community, but to really have a personalized, you know, either question answer sessions, all that kind of stuff, I think it's going to get almost kind of that kind of mass, somebody said mass intimacy was a phrase that I heard this morning, which sounds a bit strange, but I think it's I think that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I think immersive technology like augmented reality has really changed the way that fans have enhanced their experience with different sports leagues. At Snapchat, a couple things we did with the NBA, we actually brought the NBA court into people's living rooms where they could just pull it up, see the NBA court. With the NFL, we did something with SoFi Stadium where we actually integrated with their Kiss Cam, where you could see all of our viral lenses throughout the audience. And so there's been a bunch of things we've done where we use AR as like a utility. Some other examples, I know this is a global audience, with the World Cup, we had all the different team jerseys that people were playing on, and they would be able to use it, engage with it, and we had 285 million people wearing those AR jerseys. I think with Super Bowl, actually, the number of AR interactions we had was actually 2 billion. And so teams, players, leagues are really starting to lean into AR to enhance that fan experience and build that audience.
I think the future, I think we're going to see more players take control, more power. And you mentioned Charlie Villanueva. I'd actually be curious, Channing, to get your thoughts on Draymond and his podcast in real time, which I think is fascinating. I don't know, maybe as players, but I think as these platforms continue to develop, we're going to see more players take control of their brand, take control of their voice. We're seeing it in college athletics with NIL, which is name, image, and likeness. Now student athletes can get paid for that, whereas college athletes couldn't. Channing and I couldn't back in the day. So they're getting more power. The transfer portal has created more power, more freedom. So we're seeing that develop. And then from the professional standpoint, Draymond's a perfect example. And the access and the podcasting and, like the Manning cast, the live in-game streaming things that really peel back the layers of athletes and sports. I think that's the future. And I'm curious of your thoughts as a basketball player with the Draymond stuff, because I think it's personally fascinating as just a sports fan.
I personally love it and don't care, right? Draymond is Draymond. I think if you look in the history of basketball, I don't know anybody that's been signed to a network while they're still playing. So I think Draymond's, he's always given you something extremely authentic, but he's not taking away from his team, right? His consistency is both 100% on and off the court, and I think he also has the right team, which are a dynasty, right? And then he's not expected to score 50. So it's his whole game is energy and enthusiasm and aggression. So he just transfers that to the podcast realm. And I think for me, for athletes and basketball players, we were one of the first podcasts at Road Trippin to do it with our team. We had Kyrie and LeBron and Tristan and Kevin on, and it like transformed. People couldn't get enough, right? We were doing podcasts on the airplane. We were doing podcasts in hotel rooms. We had the opportunity to interview people that barely even talked to us as teammates. So I think now you see that it's almost on every single team, from Andre Iguodala to Draymond Green to Trae Young to Paul George to Patrick Beverley. I think as NBA players, we are our own businesses, and if we don't get our personal opinions out, people are going to assume, for better or for worse. And then again, when you're done, my shows that I'm on are all fan interactive now. I work for, NBA Twitter Live, which is a great show. It's like the Manning cast. We've been doing that 4 years. I have a show on NBA TV, Handles, which is all about what's going on, what's hot on Twitter, like what are the fans talking about. And to kind of shift this, I think for you guys, personally, how did you get into this space? And then where do you, I don't want to say not where you see, like how do you inspire people to come in this with a new attitude?
Well, first I got into commentary and TV right after I retired. So I retired in 2012 and very, very fortunately kind of transitioned into TV pretty easily. It was a lot of work, but I got a job at Fox Sports. And it was right at the time when FS1 launched. And then they really invested in their college football programming. And now we have become, with Game Day on ESPN, one of the biggest pregame shows in college football on Saturdays. And it's been really fun because you talked about like the NBA Twitter Live and stuff. And a lot of our show, like the whole mantra of our show is the fan. It's literally about the fan. So when you're watching at home or you're there, we want to create this immersive experience like the fan, the passion. Because as you know, in college athletics, there's really no better like passion for their schools. Like it's one of a kind. So we have a lot of fan interaction during a show. We have Twitter polls. We have fan cams. We have all of those things that really make the fan feel a part of the show as best as we can. And I think that's the future. It's exciting, and I think you have to find the balance of athletes and fans like on and off the field of what you want to do. But I think as these players and athletes are really starting to control their brand and controlling the narrative of their story through all of these platforms like Snapchat and TikTok and Instagram and Sirius if they want to do radio and all that. I mean, it's only the beginning, and I think it's really exciting for fans and even the teams and the players too. Like the access that teams are giving is unparalleled right now.
Yeah, I think I want to hit on that authenticity piece because that's really why fans love the podcast. They feel like they get to know you, they see the human side of you. I mean, that's something we really lean into at Snap too, is that, you know, with Snapchat, when creators, when athletes are posting, they're just posting their everyday life. They're just snapping random things on a day-to-day moment. It's not super curated. It doesn't take a ton of work, but it makes the fans or the audience feel like they're a part of their life. They see the human side of you. And so the interactions and the engagement we see is really high. And so I think as creators, as athletes, you keep leaning into that authenticity, that human side of you, because that's what fans want to see.
And I'm not of sport. I was, I came from a news and publishing background and have just recently moved to SiriusXM. But what I love about sport, and it was true in the news category as it is in audio, is just that passion and that it drives. And so it's a brilliant kind of genre to have on the platform that we know those customers that engage with sport are more likely to convert to a subscription, and those that are listening to sport are more likely to stay with us longer because they've got that habit. So I'm really excited about how we build on the sports offering that we've got and then use these new technologies, these new ways to engage fans in a deeper way. And I think that's a really exciting thing for us to do. And how do you translate that audio into different channels?
Yeah, I think I look around at all the information that is being put out on all different platforms, and I can speak solely for basketball. Each team has hundreds of stories every single year, and it's just like for instance, you look at the Denver Nuggets. They've had so many stories about their players, and we're like, that's sort of boring. But it is not boring to those Nuggets fans. It's just we are inundated with so many amazing stories about guys that have never given us access before, where people used to be more held back. Now people are like, I can't get to the mic fast enough. Do you think that is ever going to stop? Or do you think that we are going to figure out a way to kind of streamline that in a way so that fans get that automatic access?
I mean, I think with personalization, there are ways, right, that you are only getting the information that you are most excited by, who you're following, what's going to really engage you. So I think there are ways to limit that feeling of being overloaded by it just by serving people what's relevant to them. So I don't think it will stop. I suppose there will always be an element of how much is too much to share. And that will be a personal decision for those people to make.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to slow down. I mean, there's a whole narrative around Jokic and his horses now, right? And so it's like people love seeing like
they love to watch that.
I know. I was like, that was one of the most interesting things coming out of it. It's like, oh, well, what is Mike Malone really like after you hear his speech and everything during the championship parade? And so I think people are going to want to see more and more of that. That's what helps people build their brands, get people engaged. And so I'm excited about it.
There's a show coming out on Netflix called The Quarterback. I don't know if you've seen that, but it follows Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and I think Marcus Mariota. And it comes out this summer. And it's literally, and it's interesting because to your point, how much is too much? We know what a locker room, so like it's kind of a sacred place. So you don't want to allow too many cameras in there, but I'm curious to see, but I think it's going to be fascinating from a quarterback perspective, like the day-to-day grind that a quarterback goes through to get ready for one game a week on a Sunday. It is a lot. There's a lot of expectation, a lot of pressure. So that's going to open up and peel back that curtain, which I'm really excited about because it's like gives fans just yeah, they make a lot of money, so no one feels bad for them, but there's also a lot of pressure and expectation that go into that. It won't stop. It's only going to get more. There's going to be more and more access. And I just still think as players get more and more power, more and more control of these platforms, the personalization, the authenticity is huge, as you said. And just being genuine in who you are, I think that's what sells, and that's what players are now starting to find out.
I think football is one of the wildest things to watch, especially from a basketball player. It's just such a skill position. You spend so much time not only in the gym but in the video room, right, where basketball players are like, we eat, we work out, we sleep, we eat, we work out, we sleep. It's cool, but it ain't that cool. And so I think in each space as a basketball player, I would never have access to a football player's locker room, right? And I think those are the type of things that make it exciting because now you're going to get that transfer information from us to you, and you're seeing different sport players connecting where they wouldn't. But, I mean, we have 5 minutes. Is there anything else you guys want to mention or we haven't mentioned? We basically went through all the no cards, so.
I mean, I got some questions for you guys.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I'm a big Raiders fan. I know you played for the Raiders for a season. Like, what was that like that season?
It was in Oakland, which was actually kind of cool because the fan base is awesome. My last year in the NFL, I played for the Oakland Raiders at the time. We were 4-12, so we were terrible. But I will say this: I grew up a Raider fan when they were in LA, and wearing the silver and black, it was just like, I think probably equivalent to like the Lakers or like Boston. You know, like just the tradition of like wearing that uniform. I like had a blast that year.
Awesome.
I played with Carson Palmer, who was my teammate at SC. We had a blast. It was a really fun team to be on. So my experience was great from that perspective. Played for Houston, which was awesome because we were in playoffs every year. But the Oakland, it was fun. And now they're in Vegas, which is kind of sad, but they needed that.
Yeah, sure.
They needed upgrades for sure.
Awesome. I'm also a big Warriors fan. I know you played them too. 2016. How was that experience?
To be on that team was pretty wild. I think people assume I was on that team all year, and I really was. I got traded the last day of trade deadline from Orlando, which we were the second worst team in the league. So when I got to that team, you know, we were practicing 3 hours just to lose by 30. So when I went to the Cavs, I was like, why y'all so grouchy? You're winning by 20, and we don't even practice, right? So, you know, the thing is like that experience of not only being around LeBron and Kyrie and that elevated a group is just to see the work and how quickly they could turn it on. I don't think our story would have been as amazing. I think today's like the anniversary of it. I don't think it would have been as amazing if Golden State wasn't as good, right? Like they had everything. And, you know, those guys are such nice guys. You had to learn, like Luke Waltman went to college with best friends. Andre Iguodala, Steve Kerr was the guy that gave me my chance on the Suns. Like Jaron Collins I played with. So like that team was amazing and they were our friends and we had to learn how to hate them. Like Luke texted Richard and I, like, hey, let's go out to dinner. And we were like, man, Luke, shut the, you know, we were cussing him out, like, lose our number. But to have that opportunity to be part of history was crazy. We still text to this day. Like, when I tell people we were around each other for 16 hours a day, it was no joke. It was like film, eat, workout, film, eat, like just that. So to be locked in and be part of that was pretty amazing. It's my favorite team, favorite year. And those guys are more than teammates. They're like my brothers.
Awesome. I mean, look, fans love to lean into stuff like that and hear kind of behind the scenes of what's going on and those stories. And, you know, these platforms can really help you guys, like, enhance and
For sure. I think talking about that fan interaction, there was a guy that worked at Banana Republic that looked like Kevin. And so Richard would carry this piece of paper called Lil Kev around everywhere on Snapchat, and he would leave it at, like, bars or Forever 21. He would, like, put it between his shirts, say, hey, if you find this Lil Kev, we'll get you a signed ball or something like that. So it was crazy for that good of a team to be interacting. So Richard had like 1 million something followers, people following him. He would do this all over the country as we traveled, go find Lil Kev, right? So it's funny how we think something is so little that fans really buy into and still remember. So it was just, again, it's just something as an athlete, something as a fan that I think is constantly going to progress and keep getting better as it gets honed in. So it's safe for the athlete and safe for the fan.